Hi folks, and welcome back to the allotment for another allotment diary. And we're in for a bit of an interesting one today because in about an hour or two I'm expecting thunderstorms. So the plan for today is basically the last bits of the Polytunnel, but I've got pretty much all day down here, so I'm feeling really relaxed. I'm going to take it pretty easy, see how it goes. And first, before I start on the Polytunnel and before it starts absolutely chucking it down, I think the weather might get a bit dramatic. I'm going to do a bit of harvesting. There's loads of tomatoes and chilies. I was showing off the chilies in a video I recorded yesterday, and yeah, there's lots to harvest. And I think I might as well have a look at some of the spuds, which I think have had an appalling year. But I'm kind of interested to see what's underground. Oh my goodness, you know, one of those days where the allotment and the garden just brings you contentment. It's been really full on recently, you know, we've had loads going on, but I've just taken this really nice harvest, and just as I was wandering around, just smiling, you know, just feeling really pleased to be here. I think normally this happens to me when I've got no time pressure. You know, we've got like pretty much all day today. There's no rush, and normally it's like an hour or two after work and you've got to cram all this stuff in. And today, it's not too hot either. It's just perfect. You know, just one of those days where you're just feeling so content and pleased to be here. And I'm really happy to share it with you. Let's have a little look at this harvest. You know, I had a comment yesterday, and I don't normally pay attention to negative comments, just delete them, just go away. But someone said I was having a pretty poor show with my tomatoes compared to my chilies. And I was just like, what? What are you talking about? Look at this. This is another just amazing tomato harvest for me. Look at all these Romas that I've just harvested. There's a really nice quantity there. I've taken off the big orange accordion because that is squidgy, ready to go. The sun gold too, you know, I wasn't that impressed with these at the start of the year, but as the season's gone on, they have turned so much sweeter. I don't know if it was the weather or maybe my watering or something like that, but now they're almost like a tropical fruit. They're like this kind of mango sweetness, you know, they're absolutely sublime. Skins are quite tough, but hey ho. The black strawberry, just one of the prettiest tomatoes I have ever seen. That kind of pink blush. They're kind of like a 5 out of 10 for me on eating, but wow, just wow. And then some more black moon. And the chilies, they're just starting to come now. We've got some Dorset Nagas, some hot ones. Loads of these are Korean peppers, the kind of gochu or the goshu. Couple of champions, some of these little golden nuggets which are just adorable, and loads of buena malata as well. And the cucumbers, oh my goodness, there are like hundreds of cucumbers on the plant. I just, you know, it just feels good. Sometimes for me the harvesting isn't actually my favourite part of the year. You know, quite often it's like you've got other things that you need to be doing. Harvesting always takes a little bit longer than you expect, especially if you've got to prune around your tomatoes as well. And then you've got to go home and do something with it all. You know, you've got to spend quite a lot of time in the kitchen. So it can feel like quite a lot of work. But when you've got the time, there is just nothing better. Honestly, it just feels so good. Now, unfortunately, what's not felt so good this year is the potatoes. These went in and just, they looked so sad immediately. There's 2 rows here. And these are, believe it or not, the slightly better looking ones. Something has dug into this bag of manure and absolutely shredded it. Have to find a use for that soon. So we're gonna dig in here and just see if there's anything at all. I'm not sure if these will have A, grown, or B, just been eaten by the slugs, but there's only one way to find out, isn't there? I've been putting this off for ages because I'm not hopeful, I'm not expecting to find much at all. Oh, there is something. And I tell you what, I watched one of the best YouTube videos I've ever seen the other day of a potato harvest. I'll link it in the description, but it was from Socks in the Garden. And it just really reminded me, you know, it might be one of the reasons that I'm feeling so good today on the allotment. But it just reminded me of the kind of the pure and simple joy of harvesting. She was doing her first ever potato harvest, and it's just beautiful. You've got to go and watch it. I'll link it in the description. So after this one, please do go and watch it and check it out because it was just so sweet. Well, tell you what folks, we've started today with a lot of smiles already, and it must just be my lucky day. I've had a pretty decent potato harvest. This is just over half a row of my King Edward's main crop, and there's, you know, they're pretty mid-sized, most of them, and there's a lot of tiny little bite-sized ones, but honestly I've really struggled with my spuds this year, and this soil behind me is maybe 6 inches deep at its deepest before it hits the hard clay. So given that, I'm over the moon. There's like another 1.5 lines of this again, so this is about 1/4 the remaining harvest in the soil, if I'm lucky, that is. I'm just really glad, because I really wasn't expecting that we'd have many potatoes at all this year. The first 3 lines that I harvested out of here were just rubbish. I probably got maybe about this out of the whole lot, and they were kind of first earlies and Charlottes and that, so what a good day. My next job for today, really, I'm feeling pretty good about this, but it's time to get finishing the tunnel. I want to get the doors on, but before I do that, I think it's worth me doing a lot of the landscaping around the doors. A lot of the earth around the doors, especially the other door, is really way too high. It just kind of naturally sat high there, so I need to kind of skim that off, make it so I don't have to duck to get in the tunnel, do that kind of stuff, then finish off the battening, because in that last Polytunnel episode I ran out of screws. I've brought lots more screws up, get that battening finished, then tighten it down, get all this side stuff done, and then we can think about putting on the doors. So loads and loads of work. I'm not going to bore you with it, I don't think, unless there's anything really eventful, but hopefully you're going to see me in, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 hours, let's be honest, let's be realistic, and hopefully this is going to be drum tight, the doors are going to be on, it's all going to be finished. What are the chances of that, do you think? Is it drum tight? No? What's happened? Oh, I cannot believe it, literally. So I've been redoing the battening around the door, basically unscrewing it, pulling it really, really tight, and then getting more of the, I've got some nice chunky screws that actually put the pressure on properly. That was just taken out. And I must have started to kind of subconsciously notice the drill was getting a little bit less powerful. Because literally, as I started unscrewing it, I was thinking, oh, I hope the drill doesn't die. I haven't charged this in a few days. And I've just taken out the drill's died. So difficult. Now this bottom edge is all loose. I think it's fine, but what I need to do is go home. It's a good excuse to have a little sit down and a cup of tea, I guess, and wait for the drill to recharge. But that being said, I have managed to get absolutely loads done, and all of this stuff around the door now is much tighter. It's still a little bit, you know, there's a little bit of give there, but all of this before, they were kind of, especially on the inside, these bits were really saggy. You can see they're quite tight now, and pulling that tight has really just tightened the whole thing up, actually. I wasn't really expecting it to, but it's, you know, there's still quite a lot of give here, but it's a lot tighter than it was, I tell you that. And as soon as I start to push this base rail down and pull it all tight, I think it's really going to come together quite nicely. So we're nearly there. I just need to do that. I still haven't started on all the landscaping or anything. I've been going quite slowly, like I say. Nice leisurely pace today because, well, no reason not to. But it's getting there. It is getting there. We're back in business, folks. I'm feeling pretty well rested. Well, maybe a little too rested. You know, when you sit down, you start to slump, the energy drops off a bit, but as soon as I came back onto the plot, I was like, yeah, okay, let's crack on. It's just starting to rain, so hopefully it's not going to come down too hard, but I'm going to get the rest of these battens done. One thing that's probably worth mentioning, I did get in touch with First Tunnels because I had a comment about this wood preservative. I used clear coat on this timber, and someone said that's going to kind of degrade and erode on the plastic and make it brittle, and got a bit worried. Sent First Tunnels a message and they said not to worry, the plastic that they use shouldn't be affected. So fingers crossed that's still a thing, but yeah, I'll just quickly show you. I was quite surprised because I had, I don't know, about 5 or 6 screws in this batten, and it was still really easy to pull this through, and it was clear it needed a lot more work. But as soon as you get your kind of foot on the frame, give it a good pull. I've lost the drill now. Ah, no. Amateur JB. Where's the drill? Oh, it's on the table. Oh, bit of thunder just starting. And I imagine that nails are possibly a better choice for this. But I much prefer the kind of modular nature of screws, and if anything goes wrong, there's no risk of damaging the plastic as you try and hook it out with a crowbar or anything like that if it's nails. Some of them do require a bit of an unorthodox approach. I've got to get my foot in here, hopefully you can see that, to really push the batten against the frame and hold the plastic with my left hand, and then it gets a nice finish and actually holds the plastic, because with the screws you don't want the screw on the plastic to be the only thing that holds the plastic. You need it to be this whole batten, otherwise it might just rip, sort of thing. It's quite a good test as well, like once you've got the screws in, see if you can pull the plastic either side. Can you pull it through, and can you pull it back through or back out on the other side as well? If you can't, that means it's all hunky-dory sort of thing. Right then folks, it's coming up to about 5:30. It's been a pretty long day, and I am making what I think is really good progress. I've had to kind of reevaluate as the day goes on. I was hoping to finish today with the doors on and everything drum tight. We're still a little way away from there, but I have started tightening one side, which is really, really exciting. But there's just a lot of this stuff which is, you know, way more fiddly than I was expecting, and these bottom bits are one of those really fiddly bits. It's taking a lot of digging as well, so this is the third one that I'm doing now, but you have to dig a bit of a trench for the plastic just to be able to kind of get it battened in and kind of level with the ground. And I will be, the plan is to trench this in, but I just wasn't planning on doing it quite this early. And then just the nature of these side pieces is very, very strange and a bit fiddly. The thing that's really difficult about this part is finding enough kind of material, enough plastic to go in here without making a hole. There's one down here, but thankfully that's on the outside. So the first one was really tricky, but thankfully this one is just enough that you can kind of get the batten in, push, and then kind of push it up into position. The thing is, you want to pull this right down, get it as tight as possible. Even then it's still not that tight, but when you do that, it pushes the batten out, and that is an issue with the battening just generally. So on here you might be able to see, you see how the batten just is not at all flush with the frame. On the other side, it's much better. You can pretty much run your finger across there. It's not perfect, but if I pull this plastic, the plastic on the right doesn't move. I was a little bit worried that it was going to move, but it doesn't. And the other main issue I've had is just a lot of the battens don't really meet up on the corners. The corners are a real bodge job, but I'm just putting that down to it being second hand, and it's a bit of character, isn't it? Right, let me get this on and then I'll show you everything else I've done. Feeling it. I'm feeling it, folks. What else have we done? Well, I've started kind of profiling the earth a little bit outside. I've filled in the holes around the door frames, at least on this side. I can't remember if I've done the other side, but that's looking much, well, it's just exciting, the idea of being able to get in and not bang my head. God, I tell you what, I should not pick up the camera when I'm like panting. It's been really hot. Oh, I love going in it. Oh, it's so good. And yes, so this side of the tunnel, the base rail has been dropped down. I can probably, when it's a really hot day, get it a little bit more. If I get it really hot, like shut the doors until kind of midday. But I've been standing on this. It's just me, so the weight of one human isn't enough to get it completely drum tight. I had some comments with people saying, you know, you want to get some timber out and like bags of, you know, the heaviest stuff you can get, or like compost or cement even, anything. But it is coming together, and it's not quite drum tight, but that's pretty close. And considering I've only done one side, I'm really, really pleased. This side has been battened. That wasn't too bad. This side was awful. This was the one where there was just no excess. So if I pressed that batten all the way in to get it flush, it just would have ripped a hole in the plastic. So I thought better to just kind of leave it like that, and we don't pay too much attention, but that one's nice and flush. So it's coming together, it's coming together. I think now that I've redone most of the battening as well, it's really just so much tighter on these little pleats or folds or whatever you want to call them on the front. And you can see where I've started to tighten it, you can see the ridges of the hoops. Ah, it looks good, doesn't it? I've got all of this has been I put in like 3 times as many screws as well. So you can see all of this now is ready to just be loosened off in the middle and stamped down on it on a nice hot day, and it should be really, really tight. I didn't get as much done as I was hoping to today, but I'm just so happy. It's not going to get me down. I can just rest easy. Now that I've got this bit done, I know what to do with the rest of it, so it should go much easier. And then fingers crossed, doors should be pretty quick. But hopefully as well, we've got bank holiday, so we might get this done by the end of the bank holiday. It depends whether or not Jess is going to get me working on the garden project in the back garden. But thank you ever so much for watching. Hopefully you really enjoyed this, and I'll see you again in the next one. An extra special thank you to my Chili Pepper tier patrons: Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Mel, Michael, Denise, Socks in the Garden, and Alistair.